Hi, I'm back, and in today's episode, I want to talk about something that is literally the key to unlocking success and joy and fulfillment in relationships. And that is about the way we give and receive love, care, attention, and support in relationships. And this is going to actually challenge some of the views and beliefs that you probably hold about being a giver and also sacrificing for relationships. So, watch till the end. To start with, I want to make very clear the difference between authentic giving and giving that is motivated by fear. Let's talk about authentic giving first. Who doesn't know the joy of cooking a meal for a loved one or for a parent? That delight that you experience when you tuck your child into bed, or to make a Zoom call to your nani or dadi who lives thousands of miles away, or to help a senior citizen figure out a new phone or a gadget. And even with strangers, lending a helping hand to somebody, all of this makes us feel whole and purposeful and good because this is that part of us which is connected to nature. So, just like the earth, trees, and flowers that give freely and spontaneously, even we flourish when we give to others freely. And the best part is that the recipient also feels nurtured and supported. So, in that sense, it is a win win situation. Most of us cannot operate from our authentic nature, however, because of the conditioning that we go through as children. So, when we are given these clear but silent messages that you are worthy and valued only when you look after others, whether it's a girl who is expected to look after her family and put their needs first, or a boy who's expected to grow up into this responsible, dutiful son, I think their inner child takes on that persona of being the caregiver, and even into adulthood, they keep deriving their sense of identity and worth from looking after others. And there is actually nothing wrong in it. In fact, it's a wonderful thing to look after others. The problem is that in the process, these people neglect their own needs for a very long time until they can't. And at that point, they become resentful, emotionally depleted, and they feel like blaming others, or they become passive aggressive, but it's too late. Actually, they are the ones who have unconsciously made this choice. So when in counseling and therapy sessions, people come to me and say, I went through a breakup and I can't tell you, I feel so depleted because I gave everything that I had to that relationship. And I just feel like asking them, किसने कहा था आपको ऐसे करने के लिए? Another unhealthy belief that a lot of people operate on is that they associate vulnerability about their needs and being able to ask for what they want with a lot of shame, and they see it as a sign of weakness. So deep within, they of course crave affection, but when somebody asks to give something to them or do something for them, they often say no first because their ego associates taking from others as a sign of weakness. They end up creating a very unhealthy foundation in their relationships, because I think every relationship is also an opportunity for both people to grow in responsibility, to grow in emotional maturity. And when you don't allow people to do things for you, you're actually doing them a disservice also. You're not letting them grow. So, overall, also, it's a disservice to the relationship. I want to keep reminding you that these are all hardwired patterns that most of us are not consciously aware of. Just the way no one wakes up in the morning and says, "Today I'm going to go out and be a people pleaser." It is a fear based response motivated by the fear of rejection and disapproval of people, which makes them go out of their way to say yes. Another form of inauthentic giving is when people derive a sense of superiority or grandiosity from giving, and they give to have an upper hand with people. And I've seen this with many. If you really want to develop the awareness of whether your giving is coming from an authentic space or not, you can ask yourself two simple questions. The first one is, how is it making me feel over a period of time? Do I feel at peace? Do I feel nourished, nurtured? Have I grown? Then definitely it's authentic giving. But if you feel depleted, if you feel resentful, restless, angry within, sad, then it is definitely coming from the space of unhealthy giving patterns. The second question you can ask is, whose need am I really fulfilling? So when a parent decides to pamper a child a lot, is it the child's need to be pampered, or is it the parents' need to be seen a certain way in their own eyes first and maybe also in the eyes of the world? Once I was in a couples therapy session, and I remember the husband telling me, I do a lot for my wife. I get her the latest gadget that comes into the market. Obviously, this meant a lot for him, but later when I asked the wife, she didn't really seem to care much about those gadgets. He was probably not even connected to her inner reality, so then whose need was he fulfilling? And now we come to a very important question. Should we be sacrificing for people in our relationships? And my answer is both yes and no. We should not sacrifice when that becomes a disguised need of ours to feel virtuous, to feel worthy, to derive a sense of identity. Especially in many homes where the idea of sacrificing and giving up for others is a sign of a superior or a good human being. But we must by all means sacrifice when we really do it from our authentic nature, when there is peace and contentment within. So if my children have their examinations and I want to stay home for them for a month and not go out, I may feel physically tired and frustrated on certain days, but deep within, there is no regret, there's no resentment. I'm not emotionally depleted, and I'm not going to guilt trip them about it even 10 years later. Because when we guilt trip people about the sacrifices we have made for them, we give them guilt, shame, and indebtedness, and that takes away their sense of freedom. When two emotionally mature people come together and create a relationship, they believe that their need for love, care, and attention is equal to that of their partner. Not more, not less, but equal. Because they believe inherently that they are both equally worthy. One is not better than the other. But this does not mean that there is a 50-50 equation of giving and receiving at all times, because life goes through phases, and at times one person needs more love and care and attention than the other. But over a period of time, in the long run, there must be complete reciprocity. That is what I believe in. I believe in equal reciprocity. Both partners or two people can bring different things to the relationship. There are different ways in which they can add value. One can provide the emotional nurturance because they're really good at that and that's their strength, and the other can provide financial security. One parent is good with getting the groceries or making reservations, while the other parent is better with the kids' homework. Another challenge with giving and receiving in relationships is that sometimes a person magnifies what they do for others and discounts what others do for him or her. That's just their pattern. And the opposite is also true. Sometimes, out of a sense of low self-worth, people end up discounting what they do and end up over-accommodating other people's constraints in relationships. A common example that comes to mind is that of a wife who keeps thinking that her husband is so overworked and therefore is never available for any home responsibilities or anything to do with the kids. How do we motivate people to step up and to meet our needs better? Firstly, criticizing does not help. And I want this to be clearly understood. If somebody has the habit to criticize, remember it does not motivate people. Neither does comparing people to others. So when we say so and so does it and you should do, in fact, it has the opposite effect. It just pushes people away from us. Some approaches that can help is to be clear in expressing our needs, because oftentimes we are vague and people cannot read our mind. So to let them know how much it would matter for us if they did such and such thing for us. The second is when they actually make an effort, however small, it is important to notice and appreciate it. We don't have to sing praises about it, but it's just about having that thoughtfulness to notice when they change something just to make you more comfortable. And lastly, it is also about giving up control and learning to trust them, learning to take that risk, because you need to be flexible and open because they're going to do that thing in their own way. For example, if you have been asking your teenager to clean their room and one day they do it, then it may not be up to your standards, but still appreciate it, still acknowledge that they made an effort. And that kind of acknowledgement, appreciating what goes right, always increases good behavior. What happens when you give so much in a relationship and don't get reciprocated? How to deal with that hurt, disappointment, rejection, betrayal? Firstly, it's okay to allow yourself to feel sad, to grieve, to feel disappointment. There is no way we can really shield ourselves from that heartbreak. But then at a rational level, just the way I had spoken about emotional wounding in one of my previous episodes, I think it's important to understand that emotional wounding is exactly like physical injury. In the case of emotional wounding, a person becomes preoccupied with their own pain, and unconsciously they become self-absorbed. They come across as selfish and as emotionally available. And one event that shows you that they have this emotional wounding in them is in a way a blessing. It's like a silver lining that helps you understand that they have a limited capacity to give back. And then once you understand that, you can decide how much energy you want to invest in that relationship and what kind of expectations you can have in that relationship. What do we do when a person is related to us, when they are in our environment and we can't really take a step back from them? In such a situation, what I have done is to continue to contribute to their life in a way that I don't feel depleted and I have little or no expectations in return. But it's only when communication with someone gets really toxic, when they are fundamentally disrespectful and toxic in their communication, that you need to take a hard call and completely distance yourself from them, while at the same time managing to maintain an inherent regard for their life's journey and to know that they may or may not change depending on their own will in the future. So the question is, what kind of giver do you want to be? You have the option of watching this video and saying it was interesting and then forgetting about it, or then using everything that I have shared in this video as a point of honest self-reflection. But you know why most people are not able to truly see the change that they want to bring in themselves is because we are mostly disconnected with ourselves. In that moment when we're saying or doing something unhealthy, we don't have awareness of it. We have been slaves to our past patterns and we're doing the same things, behaving the same way. We're not accessing our power of choice. So if you really want to heal from these unhealthy patterns of giving, then you have to raise your self-esteem and you have to leave your past conditioning and fears behind. You have to tell your inner child very compassionately that now it is safe for it to shed that people pleaser or that caretaker persona and move into the joy of authentic giving.